Hey folks, as part of C64 month, I usually like to do something a little different in terms of reviews for the channel. You know, game reviews are game reviews, I can always do them. So this really the origin for this video on cartridges really started when the Kickstarter was running for Unknown Realm at the end of 2016. If you haven't really been following that, Unknown Realm is a computer role-playing game for the C64 that's also going to come out for modern Windows and Macs, maybe once they get their stretch goal, and is basically designed to come on cartridge, on a custom cartridge rather than lots of discs. And part of that is that the cartridge was a very unique cartridge shell, far different to what normal C64 games come in. And I struck up a conversation with a friend over this, and it kind of got me inspired to wanting to do a video just walking through some of the cartridge games in my collection that are a little, and just celebrate it. Look at the boxes, the instructions, the cartridges themselves, see how things have differed. So this is the first part video. We're going to focus on just a bunch of games that are sort of the pre-crash period, 82 to 84, those very early formative years of the C64's life. We're just going to look at the boxes, cartridges, manuals, just look at them from a physical perspective, because honestly, I'm as guilty of this as many other reviewers. We sometimes don't do that when we're talking about games. We don't look at the physical or talk about the physical aspect of them. So I thought it'd be a nice little side video, chilled, relaxed, browse. So I'm going to cut the camera and we'll start looking at some cartridges. Okay, so here we are with obviously the best place to start, and it's some of Commodore's own published releases here. But before we actually look at one of those, what I really have to show you is a bit of prehistory, and this is none other than Radar Rat Race. Radar Rat Race. Originally, well, this is actually the Ultimax version of Radar Rat Race. The big difference here is the Ultimax was essentially using some of the same hardware as the C64 used, but the big difference is it was a console form factor. It was actually a pretty big failure. As you can sort of see from the box language, it was only ever released in Japan, and one of the biggest and greatest moves for it was that it actually, the C64 incorporated Ultimax compatibility, and that actually leads to some really good benefits. So the box is, quite a bit different from Commodore standard boxes. It's a little more compact, a little more grey. Down the side you've got the game title in English. I find that interesting that on the front it's in Japanese, on the side in English, and on the back I guess what is basically a game description, sort of talking about what the game is, and of course, Commodore Japan's contact. Now, let's pull it open, and what you get inside is the manual, obviously, and the manual here is pretty much a simple leaflet. That horrible screenshot on the cover, that is a screenshot. It's like between two frames. But it shows you setup, tells you how to play the game, keyboard or joystick controls, what the screen elements are. Pretty much all those same elements. There's not much to the instructions here, in all honesty. And then there's the cartridge, which is essentially the precursor to the kind of cartridges Commodore would use, the sort of default. Plain black, the simple label, grey label, or silver label with Radar Rat Race in English. And it's pretty much it's that classic black design. And then the only difference though is in the corner here on the mold, the official cartridges have a little sort of copyright notice, and here it doesn't. Kind of interesting little difference that. But enough of the Ultimax. Let's actually look at one of the real releases. So these three are the three I've got boxed. I have a whole bunch loose, but we'll keep this brief. So Le Mans, Pinball Spectacular, and Solar Fox. Commodore produced these 82 to 84-ish. So Pinball Spectacular in the middle, we'll look at that. And the first thing I like, you can see here both with Pinball Spectacular and Le Mans, pardon the glare, is they've sort of got that thing where Atari were well known for the 2600 in having the classic art style. Here, what they've done is sort of a bit of that on the left. You can sort of see now the illustrations here, but on the right, you've still got this element that's a bit more gamey, a bit more, kind of representative of what the actual game looks like. And you can sort of see Pinball Spectacular, where here it's sort of that, it's a little more gamey, but it's a bit more in line of what there is there. While Solar Fox here is basically the game screen. Well, Solar Fox here, you've got the game screen, but at the same time you've got the promotional art from the arcade machine, as this is one of those arcade versions they did from Bally Midway. Now, it gets interesting on the back. We flip around the back, and you can sort of basically got here this description of peripherals. So you've got descriptions of your monitors, your disk drives, your printers, your modems, your data set. And interestingly enough, both Le Mans and Pinball Spectacular require paddles. Le Mans has it here, but Pinball Spectacular does not. It's possible that it was a sticker that fell away with age, these are 30-odd-year-old games. But the big difference is with Solar Fox. Try not to glare this, I've still got this sealed because I'm a terrible person. But the big difference here is rather than having that general basic description, it's a bit more like what you'd expect. There are game screenshots, there's descriptions of the actual game, also an indicator to say that, the joysticks need. So it's a bit more like what you'd expect. It's still kind of bland with those little screens on a silver background, but you get the idea. So let's pull one open. Again, Pinball Spectacular is in the middle, so it gets the unfortunate duty of it. There we go. So, as you can see, that cartridge is very much like what Radar Rat Race has. It's the classic black. The difference is in the label now. You can sort of see it's now got a bit of colour in there in the name, and the C64 rainbow stripe. And we flip around to the back, get in the light so you can see. That's where it's got the little marking Commodore made in Hong Kong. And of course, we can't have a game without an instruction booklet. And the instruction booklet here is pretty simple. Again, it's got your reproduction of the box art. It's a pretty slim manual. It's a little blander by comparison. It's just, pretty much text, no real screens or anything. In fact, this leaflet is very small. It doesn't even have screenshots to sort of show elements of screen action. But it tells you use your paddles, your functions, demo mode, and your scoring. So there's not much to it. Le Mans is pretty much similar, and Solar Fox, you could expect something a little different. That is for Commodore's releases. Again, they released stuff those first couple of years and really found that as the market shifted, they kind of stopped as well. So let's grab. So we will flip over to a bunch from the first third-party publisher we'll look at, which is probably one of the other big titans of this era is good old Activision. Yes, these ones are sealed. I've been very terrible on that front, but I do have one that has been opened, and it's Hero. Hero is an absolutely great game. Unfortunately, the condition of it in post wasn't really that great, unfortunately. So, the seller did not really know how to treat a box of 30-year-old computer software. So we'll start with the box itself. You've got the nice art. It's different from what you see, which is sort of the lead of the 2600. It's got the little gatefold, pop it in, it's got a nice little comic showing you, sort of the basic story of the game. An earthquake, Mr. Hero, the Van Ryzen mines. I never realised that. Nice plug. Miners are trapped, and he goes in with his hobbyist thinking. And the Order of the Hero. Alright. And then, so you flip around the front. Let's close this flap. Kind of a little fragile, it's a bit annoying. This happened last time. Anyway, flip around the back, you've got a general sort of screen. It's not quite a screenshot, it's sort of a screenshot, but not quite, but with little comic bubbles explaining what the heck is going on in the game. And so we go to the cart itself, which is very different from, Commodore stuff. It's a little more angular. They actually use the same, it's actually a larger version of the design used for the Atari 8-bits. And I think maybe the 5200, which was a far wider version. Anyway, you've got it, rather than that little tiny label you've got on Commodore's cartridges, here you've got a nice little illustrated cover. Again, it's a bit different from what you see on the box art, which is kind of weird. And then you've got Activision's imprint on the actual cartridge there. Let's get that, so you can see a little light flashing in it. Yeah. Around the back, it's pretty plain. It's got the nice rigid sides there that you can make a little easier to when it's plugged in your C64 and you want to pull it out when you're done. Pretty nice. I actually like that. It's a little more, doesn't have an end label, but not many here do. But it's a little more character. And then there's the manual itself. One thing I didn't realise until recently is actually the sort of double-sided persona of the man himself, Mr. Hero. Sort of like him and his gear and him in his offline home. And then, of course, Activision stuff was multi-language, which is really cool when you think about it. But I feel weird. It's sort of like, it's a bit wasteful. Like, could they have just run each section at a time? But the manual itself just covers, the game itself, how to play it, your screen with all your sample data, which I love is like the 2600 screen because of how they represent everything. Basically describing how to play the game, the scoring, the levels and scoring, how to join Order of the Hero and get the badge. I don't think I've beaten 75k. I'm not a badge worthy, and of course playing tips. So it's sort of a good little guidebook for the game. The others, from what I've seen, are similar. They are similar, and honestly, I haven't pulled them over because I'm terrible. But I do like the Beam Rider has a really wicked cover art there. That lovely. But I'm a sucker for sci-fi stuff, and you flip around the back, it tells you get the poster inside. I would almost love to get a copy done of the poster. And then of course Pitfall 2 is very much a different art style to get a little more adventurous, but there you go. It's sort of got that throwback to the early style of illustrated game screens, which makes sense. It's sort of the throwback to their biggest hit on the 2600, and Zenji is a little far more abstract, but again, it's still got that illustrative nature showing the nature of the puzzle game. So, good trio there. Now, I will go through and show the last boxed one I have, which is Moondust. And Moondust is by Creative Software and is quite an interesting game in general. I got this because I wanted to cover it, and up the front it's they've got this sort of yellow branding and description of the screen, the artistic representation of the game. Note that it uses controls. And on the back, it's pretty much just the description of it, A game that joins hypnotic color graphics and mesmerizing computer-generated music to delight the senses. Is a whimsical game that challenges you to draw colorful trails of moondust crystals through the heart of a glowing, ever-changing energy field. Moondust is a very weird game, which is why I do want to cover it. So let's pull the cart out, and it, again, much like the Activision ones, has that nice little ridged space where you can, hold it and leverage it to remove from the machine. The label itself is a little plainer, just stating it in plain text, Moondust by Jaron Lanier, and the copyrights and all of that. Kind of run of the mill, but the red cartridge is very pretty. Very, very pretty. I think Creative's releases, some of the others I've seen in auction use the similar kind of deal, so they probably had that. I think they were the first. The instructions itself are quite a bit different. It's a bit of a gatefold, which I kind of like, describing it, which Moondust is a very weird game, and I think that this kind of weird instruction booklet really makes sense. Just sort of explaining, it's such a weird game. I do want to cover it at some stage. I just got to make the time to play it and be somewhat decent at it. But the other thing I like is there's actually a catalogue in there. I was surprised when I saw this. A catalogue from fall 1983 with 12 games. And of course they're lined up for the 64, the VIC, and the Atari 8-bits. So they, just a big cover. Really, it's just showing the imagery that's on the front cover of the games. On the front cover of the box there. And we go through. Another batch here and there. Now we've got some home application programs. I kind of like this, it's all a little different. And then we've got, again, it's going to be the kind of things you'd see on the box, and it's a mix. VIC, 64 and Atari. They haven't delineated that. There's only just a little tagline at the bottom of each program that tells you what it runs on. And then, of course, last but not least is education, which, 8-bits and education were pretty big. Then you get your chart at the end, and that's sort of, that's another bit of commercial goodness. So, really to round this up, we have three of my more unique, well, in the sense that they're not Commodore loose carts. So we've got Sierra's Threshold, which of course I covered quite a while ago on the channel. It's very, very Spartan label. I mean, I've seen the box, and the box itself has got some really nice artwork, but the cartridge itself is a little Spartan. I do appreciate that it has an end label though. I really do. It's just a basic description, Sierra logo, the copyright year, and not much more than that. The other thing I find is weird though is, so normally, when it's, imagine hand there is the C64, you'd actually be looking at this upside down when it was plugged in. So if you were plugged in, like you had the game for playing, it would be looking like that, and you couldn't read it, which is a little weird. I mean, potentially probably wouldn't even see the threshold, because it'd probably be covered up by the computer. Very little interesting decision there. Next one is Brøderbund's Choplifter. And it's a little more strong. The label makes it stand out a fair bit because you've got that colour band, you've got the Choplifter text, and then you've got the copyrights and all of that. The thing that I find really interesting, and I didn't really notice for a bit, is, and thankfully an end label, but if you look at both Choplifter and Threshold, they're actually the same cartridge mold. I'm not surprised by this, in all honesty. When you think about it, a lot of the US publishers at the time were good friends. Like, there was sort of this friendly camaraderie they all had together in this burgeoning industry in the early days, and so you kind of had that element to it. So I'm surprised to see them reused. And the last but not least is an Atarisoft pole position cartridge, which has the sort of branding, that font usage is very similar to what they were using for the XL line, which 83 makes sense. It's a pretty plain cartridge. It doesn't have even though the label wraps around, it doesn't have an end label. It's just that. It's a very plain by design, and definitely different from what Atari were using on their own. The 2600, the 5200, and the 8-bit line, which I find very unique. And for comparison, because we do have a box one, here's my box of Ms. Pac-Man, which is that classic Atarisoft branding where they had the theme colour for each platform, C64 being green, Apple II was red. I have a bunch of Atarisoft disc games there. You've got the little bit of the art there. I always find it a bit sputting, like the name's in big text and you've just got the little cartoony illustration in the corner. And on the back, well, this one's a European one, I guess. Yeah, because I got this from Europe. It's got it in English and, well, eFigs and Dutch. That's a surprise. eFigs being English, French, Italian. English, French, Italian, German, Spanish. Call an industry term. And so there we are. That was just a pick of some of my cartridges from that pre-crash era. It's not an exhaustive list of the collection. I have quite a few box cartridges and a few others that are still around that really didn't have the opportunity to get together for this video. But I think it's a good selection of what I have and examples of some of what the publishers from the time were doing. But that's not everything. Next week will be a second part, and that will be focusing on some of the releases during the lifetime of the Commodore 64 GS console, where Commodore shoved C64 into a console, tried to bolster it against the market at the time, and failed spectacularly. But we got a lot of cool games that did very interesting things with the medium. As well, we're going to take a look at some of the releases that have been coming out in the last few years, some of the physical components of those, because I always love celebrating the homebrew developments on these machines. It's always great. So, as always, let me know what you think, especially if you like this style video and want to see me do some more from time to time of this games or other things like that. Let me know what you think down below. As always, if you haven't already, I publish videos Friday. Do consider hitting the sub button to keep notified when they come out. And as always, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.